we are not supposed to only know the gospel is true because we feel it's true. We should be able to intellectually justify our beliefs.
I'm spending money like I just got paid. $100 bills, tell them keep the change.
Is that like life is lived more like music than like an equation?
Pop a bottle, about to make it rain. Let me give you something now to celebrate. Come on.
Well, that's not what the church is about. And so actually it is.
This idea of the good, the true, and the beautiful.
And if you're wondering why I move the way I do, I just feel so good.
Load the scale first. This is my whole point.
But I think we need to make Bible bashing great again.
We forget that people need reasons to believe beyond just I've had an experience that made me feel a certain way, so that they can rationally feel satisfied.
This one is not for the lazy learners out there.
This video is brought to you by ScriptureNotes.com. For a free trial to Scripture Notes, please make sure you check out the link in the description.
I just feel so good.
Jacob, what's this thing I see in front of me, bro? It says reasons to doubt, reasons to believe, filling the scales. What's going on, dude?
Filling the scales. Well, before we get to that, though,
okay,
I have to rep something.
Oh,
my boy, Brigham. I got this, and I'm in no way sponsored by these guys, but I got it from Nauvoo Supply Company. They have absolutely hilarious shirts. Yes, if you do want to reach out, maybe we can do something, because I do love your products.
That's fine.
But yeah, Brigham Young, super based and kind of crazy theologically.
What are you sporting, Luke? Did you get that
I'm sporting
tasteful polo at Nauvoo Supply as well? Is it
No, I didn't.
Is it a Parley P. Pratt polo? Or
that's an idea.
No,
that's an idea.
But that is a good alliteration.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Okay, so why is I think the title I saw suggested was the shelf analogy is stupid. You prefer the scale analogy?
Yeah. So
well, I prefer the merry-go-round analogy. So what is what's the deal here, man? Tell us what's going on.
So let's talk about this. So here's the thing: a lot of people, if you haven't heard of the shelf analogy, everyone says, okay, there are things that you don't understand in the gospel or something that doesn't make sense to you, and so you put it on a shelf, right? And then there's an analogy that a lot of Exmos use that say, look, my shelf broke.
Well, Exmo anti-Mormons specifically. Okay, cool.
Fine. And at some point the shelf breaks, I'm here to say that is a really stupid way of thinking about your faith.
Poor craftsmanship. Like, who builds a shelf that actually breaks with only 2 books in a breath? You know what I'm saying? So, okay.
I think, so I like to talk about it in terms of scales, because I think when people are looking at their belief structure and the doubts that you have, it ultimately comes down to something like this. You have a scale, and on one hand, you have the reasons to doubt a particular proposition, like that the church is true, and then you have a reason to believe that the church is what it claims to be, right? And that goes for any proposition that's out there. And you can fill your scale with reasons to doubt or with reasons to believe. Now, I want to go through the way people kind of fill these scales.
Okay.
So go to the next slide, Carden, if you want to.
Okay.
And the new believer. Okay. So what happens with the new believer is that they will begin to, they'll have, they meet the missionaries. They feel the Spirit. They feel like, man, this is really cool. And they then, they have some spiritual experience. And that's what I'm calling these, I'll call them like little yellow marbles, right? And they're on the scale. And what they do is they begin to move you towards belief, right? They start to move you towards faith. But the question is what, and you guys can see the parallels to this in Scripture, is if you go to the next slide, what happens is a lot of times these new believers, they get sort of snatched away by the reasons to doubt. So I've had some good experience with the missionaries. Maybe I got baptized, felt really good with the ward, but that's kind of as far as it went. Yeah. And then all of a sudden people start approaching me with like anti-Mormon stuff, or life just gets hard or whatever. And all of a sudden you get pulled out, right? Now I want to show that these sort of red marbles, because I have these color coordinated for a reason.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is a very, very tasteful and well thought out bit of Microsoft Paint going on here. And clip art. This is good, dude. This is good. Okay, cool.
So with the yellow are like spiritual experiences, right?
Yeah.
The red ones I'm calling like anti-Mormon apologetics. Okay, these are like historical issues, and you'll notice they're also different sizes. So some of these might not be as big of a reason to doubt. Others are bigger, others are smaller, but you start to stack all those up and that's what you get.
Yeah.
So real quick, if we go to the next slide here, I want to show you another sort of way of thinking about this, and that's just the cynic. So the cynic is the person who basically all they do is look for reasons to doubt, and they just load that side of the scale up, right?
Yeah, okay.
Now, on the other hand, you have sort of the naive believer, right?
Yeah.
The naive believer is the person who just has spiritual reasons to believe, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
They don't, like if you ask somebody, and there's a lot of these people in church, can you guys think of anybody like this? Like people in the church who, if you ask them about like anachronisms in the Book of Mormon, they would be like, I don't know anything about that. All I know is that I've had good spiritual experiences in the church.
Okay.
Right? And so they're totally unequipped when it comes to the world of apologetics. But I sort of like don't have a problem with that. Like if you have a good, strong spiritual testimony, like good on you. But just be aware that like if you start to have doubts that jump on, it can take you somewhere. But if you go to that next slide, it's I want to talk for a minute about this spiritual giant. Okay, there are a lot of these in the church. This is like your average bishop.
Heavy laden with red bricks of doubt, but overcome with spiritual and faithful experiences.
Well, that is very much, if you go ahead and go over, I think that sort of your average bishop in the church probably falls into this category. When you go to your bishop and you say, Bishop, help me to resolve this apologetical issue, he's going to tell you to go and pray about it, read your scriptures, and try and have more spiritual experiences. Why? Because he isn't trained in apologetics, but he's had a lot of powerful spiritual experiences in his life where he doesn't care. He's like, I don't care about the anachronisms problem. The Book of Mormon is true because I've had spiritual experiences with it. And therefore, those powerful enough spiritual experiences, if you go ahead and move the scale over or show the analogy here, those are strong enough to outweigh the reasons to doubt in my life. And so I am spiritually, like just on pure spiritual reasons, have that. Now, if we go to the next one, this is sort of the evidence seeker.
All right. Oh, but now the marbles are blue. Bro, what's going on, man? What's going on? The marbles are blue.
So this is someone who's trained in apologetics, is looking for the evidences.
Oh, these are the people that subscribe to Thoughtful Faith with Jacob Hansen.
I'm actually,
wait. No, that's not what this is saying.
Oh.
If I am
these are the people that subscribe to Fair Mormon.
No. What you're proposing is that there is, I guess you could call them secular reasons to believe and also to doubt. But ultimately, maybe it tips one way more or the other, and you kind of, it gets a little wobbly as to which side it's going to tilt on eventually. Is that what you're saying?
I've been, here's what's interesting. So put the evidence seeker on the thing.
Yeah.
I have been preparing for a debate on the Book of Mormon. Mm-hmm. And what I found is that, yeah, you can find reasons to doubt. Absolutely. But you can also find a lot of reasons to believe. And I mean, these are purely kind of sort of secular evidences, things like that we typically think of in that space. And this is the realm of apologetics. It's the realm of sort of secular reasons to believe rather than spiritual ones, right? Now, some people say the only thing that matters are the secular reasons. Well, I think when you look at things in the church, what you'll find is you'll find evidences for and against it when you're just looking at the evidences, okay? And so the scale ends up somewhat balanced, right? It's like, yeah, I think that there's reasons both ways. You can kind of have the debate, right? But then what happens is that you go on, if you go to the next slide.
Okay.
And you end up in the situation where you're able to throw in all your spiritual reasons.
Yeah, look at that. Boom.
Now, this is sort of the ideal as I see it. You go to your bishop, and your bishop tells you to pray and to, do the things you're supposed to spiritually to have the big spiritual experiences in your life, but he's actually able to answer your questions. He's actually able to help you to understand those kind of things. Now, I'm not saying that every bishop can do that. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is if we're in a church that never teaches anyone apologetics, they never give them the blue marbles to deal with the anti-Mormon stuff. And so what you're purely relying on is spiritual experiences. And there is a certain amount of people in the church that just aren't going to find that intellectually satisfying to them. They're going to say, no, I don't just need to know in my heart. I need to know in my mind. And that's where the world of apologetics matters deeply. I do believe that we are not supposed to only know the gospel is true because we feel it's true. We should be able to intellectually justify our beliefs. Okay? And I know I've been ranting for a while. Luke, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I like it a lot. And I think there's this concept. Well, you get this in the Book of Mormon because is it Alma when he's talking to Korah, possibly? And Korah's like, well, there's no God. And instead of Alma saying, well, I had a personal experience when I was 12 years old when I was reading the brass plates. No, he's like, dude, did you see how the sun sets and then comes up and has its orbit? Did you see the world
they
around
all
you?
testify that there is a God. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's actually this tripart, and was it Augustine? Was it Aquinas? I don't know. This idea of the good, the true, and the beautiful. And that God, in relationship with God, gives you satisfaction in all of those categories. So you could have a little bit of a back and forth on, well, was Alma appealing to the beautiful in that instance to say there was a God, or was he appealing to more of the true, meaning, I don't know if he would have called it like a fine tuning back then, but basically just saying evidences of creation, of order.
Yes.
Either way you cut it, good is good. But truth, and then I think something we miss out a little bit out on is beauty. Like, I think we are very good at understanding that the Spirit can give you positive feelings, that the Spirit can speak peace to your mind. But I don't think we quite all the way miss that when you go on a hike, when you go to Yosemite, when you go to Yellowstone, even when you go in your backyard and there's fireflies out there like I have in Virginia here, or there's a butterfly or something, that beauty is part of God. That beauty is part of your relationship with him. And it could even be the beauty of philosophy, beauty of the plan of salvation itself.
The aesthetics themselves matter. It's funny, Kwaku of all people, he's the one who emphasized that, and he understands it. And he has an innate sense for the beautiful as something that can speak spiritually to people. And so I love that. The good, the true, and the beautiful are all the sort of things that you need to add marbles to the reasons to believe scale against the doubts.
Yeah, speaking of both beauty and scales, this is what Midjourney came up when I asked them to put blue marbles and red marbles on the scales of Lady Justice. So now we've turned the icon of the American legal system into the icon, the arbiter of all spiritual truths here, but using a cool, tasteful array of blue and red marbles. So who knows? Maybe we'll have to use this one in the thumbnail.
I did a quick little Google search, and Plato kind of came up with this at first. Okay. And then Aquinas harped on it a lot.
Okay.
Was how this got transported into the
Well,
Christian
so here's my
sphere.
question for Jacob.
So maybe Jacob, I might propose a slight edit to your scales, actually.
Okay.
To put 3 different color marbles on.
The good.
And include, because the good could be the spiritual experiences, then the true are like these intellectual arguments, and these would be like the witnesses for the Book of Mormon, or the complexity versus how young Joseph Smith was. And then the beautiful could be like the beauty of the doctrine of
I'd say music.
The beauty of the plan of salvation, the beauty of baptism for the dead,
but all
that kind of stuff.
I think that there's a beauty side of that. I mean, literally talking about things like music, architecture, art, like that. Like I've had a recent sort of powerful sort of experience with the beautiful. I was listening to a song the other day, this beautiful Protestant hymn that the BYU Idaho choir was doing, and it was like, how can you listen to this and not be
like moved?
Yeah, moved by this. Like, and it's something that's weird because I'm such an intellectual sort of, that's kind of the headspace that I live in. But I've come to realize that like life is lived more like music than like an equation.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And so as human beings, like, and when you reduce the world to a bunch of equations, this is one of the things I think atheism kind of leads you to, is a world with no soul.
Yeah.
With no magic, with no beauty, with no feeling.
Yeah.
It's flat and dead, and it's just 1 + 1 = 2, and that's the universe. It's like where when you get into the mystery and the magic of something like music, and the problem is that it transcends your ability to describe it. Only, like, you can't tell someone about this song and communicate through words what this song was. They have to listen to it.
So here's my only question here. Is the practical cardinal is coming out now and is thinking, what are we saying? I've oftentimes thought that bishops need more training, not to necessarily get their MSWs and go replace the therapists over LDS Family Services, but I do think kind of like a solid course on, how to recognize some mental illnesses, some basic ins and outs of the legal system in your area in case, issues of divorce or custody or whatever come up, so you can avoid some obvious pitfalls, and hopefully maybe even be a first responder spiritually or physically or mentally or whatever to these people, because there's a heavy emotional and social burden placed upon our bishops. And with now the church, I think, is in a very good position to provide that kind of like training and everything, right? At the same token, like, we can't turn bishop into like the burden bearer of every single problem in the church, right? So
I'm going to push back.
Hold on. So how would you suggest that bishops know more about apologetics? Like, do we got to give them a 3-day training on like the top 30 rules of anti-Mormons, how to recognize their most toxic online arguments and how to refute them? Like, what are you suggesting?
So when it comes to bishops specifically, or any priesthood leader, or any leader in the church at any capacity, or parent, I think when it comes to sort of spiritual development, I think Luke kind of hit it well on the head. The good, the true, and the beautiful. I think we're very good at the good. I think that we in the church, there's very few people that experience Latter-day Saints and don't leave going, those are good people.
Yeah,
right?
okay, fair enough.
We do the good wonderfully. I even think we do the beautiful well.
Okay.
In the sense that we have beautiful choirs.
Yeah, beautiful temples,
beautiful
choir
temples.
music. Mm-hmm.
I think we present aesthetics, and I think we could, that's kind of, I give us like a B+ on that. I think we could go to another level. When you go to some of those cathedrals or other things, there's certain aesthetics that I think we could really go up a notch with to create beauty.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But we're solid. The area where I think we fail is in the area of the true. Not because we don't have absolutely, this is the thing too. Some people think we don't go into the true because we're not true, because we don't have a good intellectual sort of defense for who we are and what we believe.
So, okay.
And I'm over here going, we do. It's incredible. It's so intellectually fulfilling. And it's like the fact that we shy away from that, and that, like, I remember I heard Brett McDonald has this wonderful series. Everyone should watch it. It is the LDS
Truth Claims?
Yes. It's a 6-hour lecture series of like 36 episodes. And I think, in my opinion, it models a course that I wouldn't say just bishops should go through. I think that if I could make this happen, I think the church should bring in Brett McDonald and say, Brett, your series is fantastic. Let's refine it. Let's put all the animation and all the good stuff, production quality, to get this thing to a level 12 as far as like production quality. And every single youth in the church should go through this program between the ages of 16 and 18. We should not be letting our youth go out without understanding, have a good grasp on apologetics. Now, what does he do? What he does is, it's the most brilliant thing out there. Go back to the scales real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
if you got him up. He makes this point. In the very first lecture he does, he says, if you have nothing on your scales, let's just say you don't have anything, what side do you load first? The reasons to believe. One of the things that happens is that if you don't, now the church is already constantly trying to load onto the scales of everybody's spiritual things. The yellow marbles, like we're throwing them at it, right?
Okay.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
But we need to load up the blue marbles first. These are the positive case for our church.
And we don't do that, but we used to, like in the Partly P. Pratt and Joseph Smith days.
Agreed. We were much more apologetically inclined.
Hey, I have an idea just before you move on to this.
Yeah.
I was thinking, what if the stake called, just like there's a stake patriarch, there was a stake apologist?
Oh, I love it. I think that's a fantastic idea.
that'd be great.
And
That'd
that
be great.
apologists were to get
I know you're not
trained.
supposed to campaign for positions in the church, but I would be dropping hints about getting that calling.
So the whole idea is that you need to have an apologetics program in the church that teaches people the positive case, but then also teaches them about all of the anti-stuff. What Brett does in his lecture series is he spends the first half of the lecture series loading you with blue marbles. And by the end of it, you're just like, this is amazing. Why don't we talk about this stuff? Like there is, and you have to also understand apologetics is a world where new evidence can come in, and maybe a good argument in the past we find out isn't a good argument. Like you have to teach apologetics the right way, but we have enough here that you can make an excellent positive case for the church, stack up those blue marbles, and now you're ready to inoculate people.
Yeah.
Now you say, let's go talk about everyone. You can take all the anti-issues and you could probably make a list of the top 10 anti-issues. And you go through each one of them in depth, you steel man their arguments, and then you show why they're wrong. Once a person has gone through that, they now have heard all of our side, they've heard all of the bad guy side, and now you go forth into the world. I'm not worried. You can, you'll hear John DeLynn, he'll talk about something and you'll go, I've heard this before. I've been trained on this. I know the answer. You know what I mean? And I think if we put together a powerful apologetic sort of program, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I think Brett McDonald has outlined exactly how to do it, because when you come out the other end of that, if an 18-year-old has watched all of his videos and they understand it, they're not going to be like, oh, church history, like I found out about Joseph's polygamy and I can't deal with that. It's like, no, they'll know all the details about it, and they'll know what the antis
Why
are
don't we
going to
just
say.
actually incorporate this into the already existing seminary program, though? Because as a volunteer seminary instructor, I've seen that, like, what, you're going to add another program that these youth will sleep through or skip? You know, so maybe we should just take out the stupid, bucket of cream story that we've heard a million times and the 15th BYU law of chastity talk we've heard a million times, and maybe throw some apologetics in there is what you're saying, right?
I do think so. I mean, the thing is, we have to be careful too, because like, I don't want Elders Quorum to be apologetics. Elders Quorum in my mind is...
The church used to. That's why Lehi in the Desert was written, so the Elders Quorum would have... Hugh Nibley wrote the manual that year.
Hey, I don't... Here's my thing. I think that there needs to be spaces for dropping the yellow marbles. And I think that is something that those courses do well. I think people go to those churches and they can leave feeling the Spirit. And that is... They say in every meeting, like, we need to feel the Spirit. But one of the things is I think there needs to be a space... like a certification, like a merit badge, like I don't know what it would be exactly, or even if there's just someone in the stake who's highly trained in this and their whole job is to like hold, there's just like an announcement, like, oh, this week we have the apologetics course on Thursday night, and we have the addiction recovery program on this night, and it's like, and so people could actually begin to go through this, but not as someone's having a faith crisis, put them in the apologetics program. The apologetics program would be designed as an inoculation against the anti-Mormon apologetics so that it doesn't shock them, right? So we inoculate members against this. We have people who know how to answer the questions. These conversations are happening. And all of a sudden, like, again, I often wonder, like, why didn't I get so affected by some of these things? And it was because I had actually been involved in apologetics very early on as a kid. And what you'll find is that that's very common amongst members. Now, apologetics is not the essence of the gospel. It is not. It's maybe one of the three of making these rational arguments, and the spiritual witness is what sort of is the life force of the whole thing. But we forget that people need reasons to believe beyond just I've had an experience that made me feel a certain way, so that they can rationally feel satisfied with their faith. And I think that path is out there. It's just a matter of actually implementing it.
Yeah. Okay. So, I 100% agree with the need for milk before meat, but come on, let's get to the meat. Like there is a craving, I believe, amongst serious members of the church to have, frankly, better spiritual instruction than we get, and especially for the youth to be better prepared. Now, this is voluntary. It's run by volunteers. And, not everybody's going to be as good at this, but.
I want to bring up one quick challenge to this.
Yeah, hit it.
Because some people be like, why doesn't the church just do this? One of the challenges.
Well, because we're run by losers who want to manage the decline.
I don't think that.
There's a generation at the top of the pride cycle that never had to worry about these and is too financially incentivized.
Here's the church currently. The church currently.
Run by senile boomers.
No,
like
they fund apologetic organizations like FAIR. Scripture Central, I know, is connected to the church. There are apologetic organizations attached to the church.
But are they apologetic, or are they just justifying their huge paychecks?
Faith Matters. More Good. The Faith and Beliefs videos are definitely apologetic.
Yeah, there's
absolutely
one.
The Faith and Beliefs.
Tier.
That's one.
FAIR's articles
run by David Snell, researcher-in-chief, operative-in-chief. More Good could burn to the ground around him, and he would probably still be able to do Faith and Beliefs on a $5,000 budget a month.
You're right.
Let's
look at this. Okay, you also have FAIR. You also have academic journals. Like there is an apologetic space. Why isn't it inside of the church? And I think there's a reason why. Because it puts the church in an awkward position. If the church's apologetics has to change because new evidence comes in.
Exactly.
And frankly, that's the church doesn't want to get caught in a position where it endorses a particular curriculum for apologetics because apologetic curriculums can change in light of new evidence.
So then sunset clause it, just say these are the apologetics of 1996 based off of all the latest information that we have. And the Apologetics Committee approved this manual. And if there's any new information, then this,
you think that people, you really think that the anti-Mormons are going to be like, oh yeah, well there was a disclaimer.
No, we're not worried about what the anti-Mormons think because we already know what they're going to think.
No,
we're worried about what the members think.
But it's not. What I'm saying is that has an influence on the members because all of a sudden the members are like, this apologetic stuff is crap and the church is always wrong, and so we're out of this. But the reality is that apologetics ultimately, it's always sort of a tentative modeling of trying to figure stuff out. And so if the church is able to sort of have that outside of itself happening with faithful members who are doing the apologetical sort of stuff. My thing is I think the church should encourage its members into some sort of an extra church like institution like those ones and formalize it more, almost like we worked with the Boy Scouts, where it's like, you have your apologetics medallion or something. Like you went through the church's apologetics course.
Fair enough.
Right? And then there's a level of separation there, and the church can be involved in it, but still be like, look, we're focused on the spiritual side because that's what we do. And you guys focus on the apologetic side, and we want to partner with you to strengthen our members. And to a certain extent, they already are doing that. What I'm saying is that it's too jumbled, and the ordinary member, it's like, yeah, go on YouTube and check out Thoughtful Faith or whatever. And I'm not in any way associated with the church, obviously, but go and check out, for them, they'd be like, go check out Saints Unscripted, or check out the FAIR stuff, or check out Scripture Central. And these organizations kind of exist, but they're sort of there for like, if you have a faith crisis, go talk to those guys. And my whole thing is that is the worst way to do this, because by that time, you want to know what happened to the scale? Boom. It already got knocked over by all the reasons to doubt. And now we're trying desperately to load the other side to try and get the scale up. What I'm saying is load the scale first. This is my whole point of what McDonald did that's so brilliant. He said, don't even worry about anti-Mormon stuff at all. not ever.
Not all. You mean
He's
in the
saying
beginning? In the beginning.
In the beginning.
course. Yeah.
Before you start to look at arguments critical of the church, you need to do all the research by the best scholars in the church for the reasons to believe, and try and exhaust that until you feel like, I know I've heard all the good arguments. Because what happens is people go to church and they start going, well, I went to church for 25 years and I was a seminary graduate and I therefore know everything about the church and I didn't know about all this stuff. It's like, no, dude, you went to a church that was trying to give you spiritual experiences. They weren't training you in apologetics. So why don't we train people in apologetics as well?
Because we're run by idiots?
Carden.
No.
That's not it.
Wait. Carden. I had this conversation with a guy a while ago.
Okay.
Not too long ago. He was really smart. And he was saying, I've noticed that it's usually not the leader's problem, but it's the people's problem. He was really smart.
Yeah.
It just told me this not too long ago.
I think his name, was it Arden Kellis? I think it was
Something
Arden
like that.
Kellis.
Yeah, it was close to that.
Maybe it was Jardin Bellis.
And so I think
I see what you're doing here. I see what you're doing. You know?
Yeah, so we have Doctrine and Covenants 58.
Okay, but here's
wise
one
servant,
difference.
if you're compelled in all things, and you should be anxiously engaged in a good cause, do many things of your own free will.
Here's my pushback on that, though. On that. I do believe that, yes, it's oftentimes not the leader's problem. It's a people problem. But our leadership has actually effectively gotten in the way of these bottom-up programs happening that they used to. And we would start getting into the same conversation that we had just a couple months ago when we talked about why don't we have special interest groups that are statewide and cause fellowshipping. Because, like, for example, I would start a brand new Boy Scout program. I'd design all 50 new merit badges. I'd make sure they were scripturally relevant, and I would design a new program for the Boy Scouts of America that could be run outside of the church and so on and so forth, but they would tank it. When you and I wanted to go make the video in Africa of why is Africa blowing up, we had gotten permission from a local bishop, permission from a local mission president, and local leadership loved this idea of some Americans coming and filming with some African members and just exploring the culture and saying, hey, why is it blowing up here? What is it like? And it wasn't until Salt Lake City was called that the project was tanked. So this idea that I say of, look, it's, oftentimes a people problem and not a leadership problem. We're the exact opposite in the Mormon church. I see an underclass of millennials and young parents and virtually apologists like Jacob Hansen desperate to give their knowledge to other folks, and the structural church actively opposing that process for niceness, culture, social norms.
I think we're getting into some vague stuff. I've found it on both ends what you're talking about.
Okay.
I found at times where local leaders kind of put a kibbutz on things that ultimately it's just kind of like you have some fuddy-duddy local guy that just doesn't want to do something. But this is an apologetics type program. See, at the highest levels of the church with the brethren, I'll tell you what they're concerned with. They are concerned with getting people to make and keep covenants with Jesus Christ because they have received a spiritual testimony through Jesus Christ of his divinity. That is their goal. How that gets done kind of at a more granular and more local level as you begin to go down the church, some of those details are left to us to sort out. And I do think that at mid-level of the church, I think that there are some issues and some problems where I think people are kind of stuck in their ways, and that's fine. That's why I'm putting this out there as a potential solution that I hope that leaders can sort of think about. Like, I'm nobody, but what I'm saying is that I'm just making an observation here. I'm making the observation that if you have people that are trained in apologetics through some sort of a course, through a church educational program, or through the church endorsing an outside institution to assist with this matter, to give people some sort of a certification that they've been through the training, I think at that point, you have inoculated people and I think this especially happens for young people, so that they are ready to go out and they're not going to be bothered by things, because it's sort of like we've told them the whole story. You know what I mean? Like, this is all the arguments people are making. This is the conversation. This is the way that we think about it and respond to it. And I think that will inoculate people against the craziness in the world. And when that course is done, what you'll find is that you won't have people leaving because they'll say, oh, I didn't know, or whatever. Not only will they know, they'll know the answers, and they won't just have played defense. They'll know all of our offense. They'll know all of the positive arguments that the critics can't answer. And that puts them in a very strong position apologetically, or at the very least, it balances the scales. And then you add the spiritual experiences to that, and you got a person that's a lifelong Latter-day Saint, because they know not only in their hearts, but they know in their minds as well.
Okay. So, what are you thinking, Luke? You think we're going to do this? Are you going to start it in your stake there, bro?
No, so Jacob, you halfway stole an episode idea. and I took a different route with it. The title, and I think we still should do this episode because I have more thoughts about this. I feel like we've covered a good ground here in this one. So I'll just kind of introduce it and then kind of put a pin in it so we can come back to it later. But I think we need to make Bible bashing great again. And what I mean by that is usually you'll be in it. This just happened a couple weeks ago, and I feel like the same. Cardin talks about how we have this chastity conversation too much. I don't agree with that. I think the conversation we have too much.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think we have it anymore. That's another issue. The conversation I think we have too much is when people say, oh yeah, on my mission, and I used to try and Bible bash people, but we all know that doesn't work at all. And
that's
then I
BS,
repented,
dude.
and I learned to just
saved
try and bear my
converts doing it.
instead.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. I don't like it. There's just something off about it. I understand we want to emphasize what the Spirit can do and the witness the Spirit can give, and not try and secularize that or modernize that at all. I totally understand that tendency, but it starts to sound like, oh yeah, there was a person that actually wanted to try and discuss things and dive into this and bring up concerns and have them answered. And so obviously they weren't ready for this. It's like, wait, what? Hold on there. I'm sure there's some people that are just like, oh, I'm going to get those Mormons today and contend for it and everything. But I feel like sometimes it swings into, every time you try and get into nitty gritty evidences that are too secular, that's bad. And to the point that the missionaries need to go get away from you. I don't think that's right.
And again, I think that is something that this sort of apologetic program, as I would see it, wouldn't be just learning. I think it isn't just about learning the points that we make. It's also about learning about what do you do in that situation. If somebody wants to Bible bash with you, is there a way to actually turn that into a positive interaction?
So that's what I want to talk about in the episode.
And frankly, if I were
giving Bible bashing great again,
if I were the one who was teaching the apologetics class on what do you do when someone comes up to Bible bash you, you know what my advice would be? Get really curious. Listen to them. Have them make their points. Ask them questions, right? And be genuine. Be curious. This is a person with a different point of view on the scriptures. And not only that, I think if you have some basic apologetic training, you can learn what sort of questions to ask them. Because what you'll do when you ask people questions, so I actually read a book on this. It's called Tactics by Greg Koukl, and I encourage everyone to read it. He's a Christian apologist, and he talks specifically about the tactics that you use when you're engaging in apologetics.
What's the chapter on Mormons say?
It actually, he doesn't.
First, you got to tell them they ain't Christian, and then you got to show up and you got to say the original Greek logos in the frickin' book of John. You know what I'm saying? Is that what it says?
So no, actually, the really wonderful thing about this book is he does quite the opposite. He kind of gives the same advice that I just did. He said, you want to ask people questions to make them explain their case in full and you try and make sense of it. Because at some point, it's not going to make sense to you. And what you do is if you really listen to them and you steel man their point of view, you'd be surprised because then they actually will at some point want to listen to what you have to say. Now, they may disagree, and that's okay. But if you can sort of engage in a good conversation by actually listening, right? And trying to understand their point of view and answering with the questions that you have, you can learn to do this. Now, I'm not saying that's always the case, but I think that it's a learned skill and you can learn it. And not only that, I now, honestly, if someone comes up and wants to Bible bash with me, I'm like excited. Not because I'm going to own them, what? Like, not at all. But because it's like, this person is super passionate about religious belief. Like, lay it on me, bro. Because I've heard what these people have to say. I know, and not only that, when they understand that I actually understand the contingency argument for God, and I understand the Kalam cosmological argument, and I understand Aquinas, and it's like, dude, they all of a sudden are like, I didn't realize Latter-day Saints knew any of this stuff. I thought you guys like prayed to Joseph Smith, and it immediately develops like a relationship of like, hey, we can talk. Like this is cool. Like let's engage in the conversation. And when that happens, you build bridges, you make new friends, and it's just one of those things that again, I think if people were taught some of these principles, there would be apologetics has almost become like a bad word, and it's not. It's an essential part of being a Christian. It means to give a defense or a reason, as Paul said, or was it Peter? Peter, I think, said it.
Okay.
Give a reason to those that ask for the hope that is in you. Okay? You need to be able to not just say, I had these spiritual experiences. You're going to need to give an intellectual justification for why you believe what you believe. And if you can't do that, in my mind, what you need to do, anyone listening, if you don't feel like you are able to intellectually offer a good sort of intellectual case to defend your beliefs, you need to go watch the entire series from Brother McDonald. What's his first name again? Also, Brett McDonald.
Yeah.
Called LDS Truth Claims. Go through all of his lectures, and by the end of it, if you've taken notes and you've taken it seriously and really tried to absorb this stuff, you're going to find that you have a lot of the information. And then I think if you go read a book like Greg Koukl's Tactics, you will be equipped with how to do it. And you will actually be in a very good spot to begin to actually engage with other people online or in person on these matters. And it can become something that is a real, like, enjoyable part of your life rather than this thing that you fear or that you think is irrelevant. Or you say it's irrelevant because you're like, well, that's not what the church is about. And it's like, actually, it is.
So I just got to tell you, this whole idea of just curiously ask them questions and they'll end up disproving themselves with their untenable arguments because their arguments are untenable. That totally sounds like some kind of garbage idea that this Preston Perry guy that ambushed the missionaries came up with. You know what I'm saying? Like that's such an arrogant evangelical like presupposition that I'm the smartest, No,
see, that's the thing. I disagree.
It's actually Socratic.
And it is Socratic. And not only is it Socratic, there's two things that are going to happen when I do that. I don't assume that I know better. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yeah, because how many apologists do you know that are just so humble about their knowledge?
Well, dude, no, I would say no. That's we can teach people not to.
You're not going to be debating a James White.
No, I would. If I had James White coming to me, I'd love to listen to him. I'd say, James, I want you to explain to me these things. I want to understand how you reconcile these things. I'm not doing it as I got you. If you want to do a public like debate, then yeah, I'm trying to win the debate. But if I'm engaging in a conversation with another human being, I want to actually consider that maybe they know something that I don't. At the end of the conversation, one of two things is going to happen. Either we're going to get to the point to where I don't understand what they're saying genuinely because it doesn't make sense. And they're going to realize, I think, this guy's asking me questions that I can't resolve. And I'm now starting to go, I don't have the answer to that question. And that bugs me, which is a good thing. Or number two, I'm going to learn something I didn't know before. I'm going to go, that's a good argument. Like, I hadn't heard that one before. And now I've grown as a person because I didn't realize that for Catholics or Protestants that the way you view evil is as an absence of God, right? And what does that mean? And all of a sudden I have these new questions and new ideas.
No, it's
and
a quote.
I go read, I go learn, I go like, now I'm really curious. It's like I'm expanding my mind. So either way I win. I either end up learning new things, getting new perspectives, or I end up them realizing that I actually know more than them and they're confused.
That's what all of the children and the women in the Hans Mill massacre should have just really done, is just, yelled out to all the Protestants that were shoving their muskets through the holes in the frickin', in the mill and blowing off the legs of the innocent. Oh, could you just really explain your hatred for me? I'd really like to get to know a little bit better.
That's not what apologetics
You know what I'm
means.
saying? That's whatever he's suggesting.
When you get into the musket fire, like literal musket fire, you're kind of beyond the realm of apologetics.
Okay. All right. Well, guys.
I do have a little meme
Okay, one
that
meme.
I put in the Discord,
memes.
and
Then we
I've got to warn people. This one is not for the lazy learners out there.
Oh,
Only a few people are going to get this meme.
Okay, that's funny. So is it the Jordan Peterson meme or is it the
No.
menacingly Jacob meme?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it up?
It is up in 3, 2, 1. There we go. Here is the meme.
You've got to do the voice with it just to kind of come across. The menacingly kind of conveys it, but you got to do the Jacob. Do not deny me your apologetic gifts. Those who know.
Nailed it.
Those who don't,
I know. I was on my mission, and that was the video to show.
Why was that the video to show? Isn't that the bad Lamanite king from some video or
from
something?
What's the name of it? I can't remember.
Testaments.
The Testaments, where we did blackface with white people.
Wait, shut up. They did?
And the main character now is a Doctrine of Christ apologist.
Oh, really?
Jeremy Hoop. Yep.
Wait,
The guy who's the
what?
main character is now a Doctrine of Christ apologist.
Wait. Like the
Like
young
polygamy
dude
denier.
who's the main character?
Like the like Nephi-esque guy that like likes the girl.
The one that I've replaced you with in the meme? That Jacob?
No, not. Or maybe it is that Jacob. It's the guy he's like the he has like the romantic interest with that one girl. Like they're like the love story.
Dude,
in it.
it's been so long.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, his name's Jeremy Hoop, and he is one of the prominent leaders of the Michelle Stone. Joseph Smith was not a polygamous crowd. Yeah, I noticed that. It was really funny. But he's
that's hilarious.
But yeah, that movie was legendary. But they totally like painted Jeremy Hoop. They painted his face like brown.
Was it just like a bad attempt at tanning, or was it Justin
No, I didn't
Trudeau?
even notice.
It was a really like bad spray tan, basically.
Oh no!
You need to look up a picture of him in the show though, like in that movie, like Jeremy Hoop in the what is the name of that one?
It's the Testaments.
The
you said,
Testament,
right?
yeah, the Testament. Jeremy Hoop.
No, it's called the Testaments.
Oh, the
I thought it
Testament.
was,
Jeremy
right?
Hoop.
Okay,
one
so
fold,
here's
one shepherd.
There he is.
Oh my gosh!
There
you're
he
right.
is.
There he is, dude. Look at this right here. Oh, that is one step down from Justin Trudeau. That's still in spray tan territory, not blackface territory. Okay, but oh my gosh, that's not quite Jimmy Kimmel, and
he was a Nephite. He was a Nephite in the movie, so therefore, the Nephites were pretty tan.
There we go.
Jeez. Some of these decisions that are made, I just wonder, did you want to walk through a minefield or
Dude,
what?
Well, this is all before like the woke cancel culture on this stuff. This is back. This is back when.
This is like 2002.
Yeah, this is like 2002. This is definitely before. This is while Justin Trudeau was still thinking it was cool.
Yeah,
Dude.
and Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
Okay,
the same
so
era.
this one's not so bad. This one right here, not so bad, but still, wow.
This looks like he's been in Hawaii for a while.
Dude, that is
I think he did
funny.
film it in Hawaii.
All right, dudes. So let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Would you sign up for not Apologetics 101, because that sounds too much like a university, but would you sign up to be the steak apologist who had to meet with the steak patriarch and see if all that of academia and all that of spirituality were in conjunction one with another? And so on and so forth? Or do you think this is all just a bunch of hogwash? Either way, let us know what you guys think in the comments below. And as always, for this and more, please make sure you check us out at wardradio.com.
Feel so good, good, good. Oh, I just feel so good.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Before you go, please make sure that you like the video, share it with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please let this be the video in which we earn your subscription, and that you press the alert button so you're alerted to all of our fun live streams and standalone videos and community posts. Also, if you'd like to help us out, please consider joining the channel. Members get all kinds of cool perks and benefits. They get early access to a lot of our videos and special emoticons and emojis during our live streams and preferential treatment there. It's a lot of fun. Speaking of a lot of fun, we have a super cool Discord. If you'd like to join our Discord, check us out on wardradio.com. There's a link to the Discord there. Also, you can sign up there for our newsletter. Our newsletter is a lot of fun, and you can put your email address in there. And if you'd like to contribute to the program, please consider looking us up on Venmo or on the Cash App. We're on both of those platforms. Also, if you just want to keep watching more content, right about here and probably right about here are going to be some more videos. Please check those out. And as always, for this and more, please make sure that you look us up and check us out at wardradio.com.